Who's buying homes? Who's selling homes? What does that look like? Are they old? Are they young? Are they first-time home buyers? Are they repeat buyers? Are they single? Are they married? Male? Female? I'm going to jump into this report, a 140-page report from the National Association of Realtors. They talk about the profile of home buyers and sellers, and they really get into it. 140 pages worth in this video. I'm just going to go over the cliff notes, the highlights, as you will, of this report. So stay tuned. All right, Matt, the mortgage guy, residential mortgage broker, licensed nationwide. I'll tell you later how to connect me and my team, but I do want to jump into it because there's a lot of data to go over. Again, I'm just going over the highlights. I'll link the report down below, and I'm going to give my insight and my take, but not too much of it because really there's a lot of stuff here to go through. So let's jump right into it. Characteristics of home buyers. Now, I looked at this. There's 150,000, 153,000, something like that, that they sent out surveys to. They got a lot of these surveys back. It was July of 21 to June of 22. So when we talk about a 2022 report, keep in mind these stats from home buyers and sellers is going to overlap 21 and 22. Some of it, I'll tell myself, listen, the second half of 22 is vastly different than the first half and vastly different than the second half of 21. But all that aside, let's get into it. First-time home buyers made up 26%, which was down from last year's 34%. This is the lowest share of first-time home buyers since the data collection began. Let's be honest, affordability is what's driving that down. The typical first-time home buyer was 36 years old this year, up from 33 years old last year, and the typical repeat buyer was 59 years old. Both of those are all-time highs. 61% of recent buyers were married couples. 17% were single females. 9% were single males, and 10% were unmarried couples. The highest share of unmarried couples recorded, and it is worth mentioning, 17% of single females. I know in mortgage conferences and in talks that I see about real estate that this continues to climb. The amount of single females that are out there purchasing a house. So girl power, they're out there buying real estate. 17%. Of recent buyers. Among first-time home buyers, 18% of buyers were unmarried couples and 5% were other household compositions. Both are the highest shares recorded. So, a lot more like non-married couples, I guess, as first-time buyers. 14% of home buyers purchased a multi-generational home to take care of aging parents because of children or relatives over the age of 18 moving back home and for cost savings, right? So aging parents, I think a lot of like multi-general households were formed during COVID. And so this is probably a spillover of that. 88% of buyers were white Caucasian, 8% were Hispanic Latino, 3% were Black African American, 2% were Asian Pacific Islander, and then 3% identified as other. White and Hispanic both grew, while the share of all other racial and ethnic groups declined. All I really need to say about that is let's do better as a real estate community, empowering people through education. And really, it's about resources, right? So that everybody's got opportunity. I know that from a national perspective and from a government perspective, programs are giving access to a lot more people. So hopefully some of that, really lopsided demographic information changes, but that's enough on that. At 22%, the primary reason for purchasing a home was the desire to own a home of their own. For first-time buyers, this number jumps to 62%, which is, 2/3 of first-time buyers just, they have a desire to own their own home. It feels different. Putting a key inside of a door of a home you own. Now, the next subsegment of this is characteristics of homes purchased, of the actual homes, not the home buyers, right? 12% of buyers purchased a new home and 88% of buyers purchased a previously owned home. They call that a resale home. So 12% new build, a builder puts together development, buys it, puts together a new build, and then 88% is, you buying a house for sale that another family's leaving. Detached single family homes continue to be the most common home type for recent buyers at 79%. Followed by mobile or manufactured houses at 8%. It doesn't say anything on like whether that share of mobile or manufactured is up, but I feel like maybe it is because of affordability. Senior related housing held steady this year at 7%. Buyers above the age of 60, with 17% of buyers typically purchasing condos and 8% purchasing a townhouse or row house, whatever the heck a row house is. The median distance between the home that recent buyers purchased and the home they moved from was 50 miles. Huge increase on the distance moved. Between 18 and 21, it was 15 miles. So what this tells me, if they're taking an average, is more people are moving out of state. More people are relocating into a different area. They can work from home. They want change of scenery. Whatever the case may be, more people are moving farther. For buyers, 49% cited quality of the neighborhood as the most important factor, determining the location. Convenience to friends and family and overall affordability of homes were both cited at 37%. Makes sense. They want to be next to friends and family, and they want an affordable place to live. That checks out. Buyers typically purchase their homes for 100% of the asking price, with 28% purchasing for more than asking price. This is a number, like I said, where if we're using the second half of 21 and the first half of 22, this number is probably slid a little bit, where maybe it's 99% of the asking price if you took all of 2022. That's just a guess, right? Because 102, 103, 105% as an average of asking price was in the heyday when things were crazy. Now it's closer to 100 for sure. The typical home that was recently purchased was 1,800 square feet, had 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, and was built in 1986. Much larger on average than past. And we've looked at new home build data and all this other stuff. Like, homes are getting bigger. That's part of the problem with the cost of homes, right? Is when you go from new builds being 1,100 square feet to the average new build being 3,000 square feet. Of course, they cost more. They're 3 times as big. Overall, buyers expect to live in their homes for a median of 15 years, while 28% that they were never moving, right? So people are buying their forever homes. Makes sense. Now on to the home search process, which is important to get inside the minds of how people are searching for homes. For 47% of recent buyers, the first step they took was to look online at properties for sale, while 18% of buyers first contacted a real estate agent, right? And then they probably went and looked online and got some information from the agent. 86% of recent buyers found their real estate agent to be very or somewhat useful information source. This is from the National Association of Realtors, so they might be biased, right? In how they worded that question. That's not a knock on realtors. I love you guys. Buyers typically searched for 10 weeks and looked at a median of 5 homes and viewed 4 homes only online. The number of weeks searching for a new home grew from 8 weeks in 20 and 21. I bet that number continues to rise, right? 10, 12 weeks. Partly because there's not a lot of inventory, partly because we're not in a market where you have to be super, quick and put an offer within a day of it being listed. Number of different reasons. That buyer cycle is lengthening for sure. Nearly all buyers used online tools in the search process, 96%. It is 2022 after all. People are using that little thing called the internet. When asked where their internet searches were conducted, they typically conducted 60% of their search on a mobile device and a desktop laptop at 34%. So people are searching on this thing. People are on their phone. 91% of recent buyers were at least somewhat satisfied with their recent home buying process. Whew, it's a lot of stuff, right? Now into home buying and real estate professionals. 86% of buyers recently purchased their home through a real estate agent, and 10% purchased directly through the previous owner. Having an agent to help them find the right home was what buyers wanted when choosing an agent. 49% of them said that. 38% of buyers used an agent that was referred to them by a friend, neighbor, or relative. 12% used an agent they'd worked with in the past. 10% found their agent when inquiring about a specific property found online. So 1 in 10 look at a property. They love the property. Like, oh, Betty Sue's connected to that property. What's up, Betty Sue? 67% of buyers interviewed only one real estate agent during their home search. Likely they got referred to that person. They're like, yeah, they seem competent and cool. 89% of buyers would use their agent again or recommend their agent to others. That's pretty generous. Okay, now financing the home purchase. It's where the mortgage guy comes in, right? 78% of recent buyers financed their home purchase, down from 87% in the 2021 report. That's wild. 22% of people didn't finance, meaning they paid cash, seller financing maybe, some other sort of thing that doesn't show up in the data. Interesting that that's up. The typical down payment for first-time buyers, this one is important, folks, was 6%, while the typical down payment for repeat buyers was 17%. Typical first-time buyer puts down an average of 6%. You don't need 20, you don't need 25, you don't need 6 figures in the bank, right? A lot of first-time buyers put down 0, 3, 3.5, 5, 10. It averages out to 6, right? But you don't need a huge down payment, a myth. For 47% of buyers, the source of the down payment came from their savings. 38% of repeat buyers cited using the proceeds from the sale of a primary residence, while 22% of first-time buyers used a gift or loan from friends or family for the down payment. You shouldn't put that in this report, guys. You can't use a loan. You can't use loaned funds. You can use a gift, okay, but you can't use loaned funds. For first-time home buyers, 26% said saving for a down payment was the most difficult step in the process. True story. A lot of people, that's the biggest hurdle. Great credit, great job. Saving the down payment is difficult. There's low down payment programs and there's down payment assistance. Go to greatmortgagebroker.com, fill out the form, let us know how we can help. Got a nationwide down payment assistance program. This is a good time to take a breath. And since I haven't done it, greatmortgagebroker.com. That's how you connect with me and my team. We are more than happy to help. We are nationwide. If you want an agent nationwide, go to homeandmoney.com/Matt. Okay, back to the show. The majority of first-time buyers did make financial sacrifices to purchase a home. They stopped buying luxury goods. They stopped, with some entertainment and clothes purchases. Okay. Buyers continue to see purchasing a home as a good financial investment. 88% reported they view a home purchase as a good investment. Yeah, real estate's pretty good over the long term. Okay, now let's talk about home sellers. The typical home seller was 60 years old, up from 56 last year. For all sellers, the most commonly cited reason for selling their home was a desire to move closer to friends and family, 21%, moving due to retirement, 11%, or the neighborhood has become less desirable, 11%. Neighborhood has gone to crap. Maybe some people thought that their state or their government in that state had gone to crap. I'm not saying nothing, but could be a reason for moving. Sellers typically lived in their home for 10 years before selling. This is an increase from 8 years. I can't remember the exact word for this, but for sure, the longevity of staying in a home is increasing. People are staying in their homes for longer. And now that they've got 3% interest rates, gosh, that number probably continues to rise, right? 41% of sellers traded up for a larger home. 32% bought the same size home. 86% of home sellers worked with a real estate agent to sell their home. 10% sold for sale by owner. Less than 1% sold via iBuyer. That iBuyer thing's not working out very well for those iBuyer companies. Recently sold homes were on the market for a median of 2 weeks, an increase from 1 week last year. That number continues to rise, no doubt. Only 20% of sellers offered incentives to attract buyers, a drop from 26% of all sellers last year. Well, I got to tell you, when this report comes out next year, a lot of sellers are offering incentives. I bet you $1 and a hole in a donut. 91% of sellers were at least somewhat satisfied with the selling process. Yeah, sure they were. They just told you that in your survey. Home selling and real estate professionals. 63% of sellers found their agent through a referral from a friend. Cool. 80% of realtors 80% of recent sellers contacted only one agent before they decided who to list with. 39% of sellers use the same agent to purchase a home as sell their home, a share which rises to 85% for sellers who purchase a new home within 10 miles. Right. So if you're selling in Sacramento and buying in Florida, you're going to use a different agent. But if you sell here and buy there, you use the same agent 85% of the time. 86% of sellers listed their home on the MLS, multiple listing service, which is the number one source for sellers to list their home. That's a little plug there. There you go. 74% of sellers reported they provided the agents compensation. The typical seller has recommended their agent once in selling their home. 27% of sellers recommend their agent 4 or more times since selling their home. You want to have a seller like that if you're a real estate agent. Refer that agent multiple times. 85% say they would definitely, 73% or probably 12% recommend their agent for future services. What they say and what they do, two different things. Okay, for sale by owner sellers. We said that 10% of recent home sales were for sale by owner. This is up from 7% last year. The majority of the for sale by owners knew the buyer. So that was like, I put some of those deals together, right? Backyard barbecue. Joe's going to sell me his house. Ann's going to buy it. And Joe put together the contract, and we get them the loan, and off they go. Within rural areas, 13% sold via for sale by owner compared to 6% in suburban areas. For sale by owners typically sell for less than the selling price of other homes. For sale by owner homes sold at a median of $225,000 last year, significantly lower than the median of agent assisted homes at $345,000. Okay, a lot of stuff there. I will include this, like I said, a link to this 10-page Cliff Notes version of just the highlights. You can probably find the longer version online. It's just interesting read, right? If you're involved in real estate in any way, bunch of information in there about who's buying, how much they're putting down, the profile of both buyers and sellers. I thought it was interesting. I hope you enjoyed it too. Any comments below, good, bad, or ugly, leave them. I'm happy. Again, greatmortgagebroker.com. Fill out the form if you want to connect me and my team. homeandmoney.com/Matt if you want to connect to an agent. Thanks for watching.